All right. Thank you for everyone for joining us for this continuation of the Armchair Traveler Series. My name is Brandon Wilkes. I'm the Education Coordinator at the Haines Public Library. I'm in charge of facilitating all our programs and events and educational things that we do. I'd like to thank Cindy and Russ for helping put this whole thing together. I think it's been going great so far. If you've missed any of the ones we've done already, highly suggest you check them out on the Haines Library website under the e-learning tab. Right now, everyone is muted. Go ahead and leave it muted until the question and answer portion. After that, by all means, unmute, ask away. You can also type your questions
there it is.
in the chat. Yeah, I look forward to seeing Dennis around the Matterhorn. 17 days. It's a little faster pace than I would do. I'm more of a 6 months kind of guy, but that's me.
I love you. All right. Bye.
Peg is still unmuted somehow.
Where's Peg? Oh, here we go. Okay. Anyway, so with that, I will, if anyone ever has any ideas for any programs they'd like to do, any classes they'd like to teach, we have space at the library, please get in contact with me and we will see what we can do about putting that together. Without further ado, I will kick it over to Russ and Cindy.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us tonight. First, I'll tell you about the rest of the talks that are coming up. We have 3 more talks this spring. We have Deborah Schnabel is going to do a talk in Ethiopia on April 7th, which is an update from the one she did 3 or 4 years ago. And then Lily Ramsey, I think middle school age, is going to give us a talk the next week on April 13th, which is a Wednesday. Both of those, well, Deborah's is definitely going to be in person at the library as well as Zoom. And then Lily's is via Zoom and may also be in person. I don't know yet. And then Dina Selby is going to give us a great one on Costa Rica on April 21st. And then I think that's going to be
Lily's on.
Lily's is on traveling around the United States in an RV and homeschooling. And so this is actually a school assignment for her and learning some really good skills. And then I think that's going to be it for this year because people start getting very, very, very busy. We might pick it up again next fall, but if everybody's too busy, hopefully we'll pick it up again next winter. So if you want to give a talk next winter, and you can contact me and then I'll nudge you a few times between here and there to remember to start putting it together. And you don't have to commit, but if you're interested, give me a call because I think your community will really appreciate your giving a talk. Okay, so I'll introduce Dennis. Oh, and the other thing is a lot of the speakers have had a hard time talking just to the computer. And so and we've asked people to turn off their videos, the audience in the past, just to save bandwidth. But tonight I'd like to try like 4 or 5 people if they would be willing to keep their video on. And if it slows everything down, we'll cut off your videos or ask you to do them. But if you don't mind being a face that Dennis can look at while he's giving it his talk, we'd appreciate it. Okay, so I think you probably all know Dennis, but Dennis hails from Ohio, Nevada, and now Alaska. He schooled and worked in mineral exploration geology, followed by nearly 20 years working as a GIS consultant. His deceased wife, Sue, hails from California, Nevada, and Alaska as well. She trained and worked as a geologist and then had a 20-year graphics business in Reno. And lastly, she was a licensed landscape architect. She is best known in Haines for her original but unimplemented picture point design, if you guys remember that from a few years back, and started the River Talk. Sue and Dennis shared a passion for travel, and most of Sue's family are in Switzerland. They did this trip together. So I will turn it over to Dennis. We will have questions at the end. And if you have a question that might be appropriate for in the middle of the talk, you can put it in the chat and then Dennis will either answer it or leave it till the end. So thank you, everybody.
Well, hello, and yeah, thanks a lot for joining this Armchair Travelers series here. I want to also thank Cindy Buxton for organizing this thing. It's been great, really. There's been some great great talks here in the past, and looking forward to some of these in the future. So yeah, it's been a great thing, really. It kind of reminds me of high school days when there used to be, like, during school year, about once a month, somebody would show up in the school auditorium and give a travel show with slides and so on. And it really got me interested in traveling. And also, I'm going to see if I can move this screen, but in any event, it also got me out of Ohio, because I realized Ohio was not necessarily a great place. Oh, that's not going to work either. Okay, so first of all, I guess, has everybody seen this introductory slide here around the Matterhorn 17 days? We are seeing that. Okay, well, no, not seeing anybody waving hands saying no, so okay, great. So yeah, this is a trip that Sue and I did in 2013. We took about 17 days, yeah, to do the whole route around the Matterhorn. And I have to give credit to Sue. She took most of the pictures that you're going to see. She had a real nice, SLR, digital SLR at the time, a Canon. And so she took a lot of great photos. I've got a few of mine scattered in, which were, back in the day was just an iPhone 4 or 6, I can't remember which, but those definitely stand out as poor quality photos compared to what you'll see here. So a lot of the trails that we took on this trip are actually old trails that people have been traveling for hundreds of years. It's a whole network of trails people use to travel between Italy and Switzerland and France and other countries in Europe. And so what we took is crossing quite a few of those old trails. Yeah, and as Cindy mentioned, yeah, Sue unfortunately got pancreatic cancer back in 2011. She managed to survive 4 years of treatment and all, and this was about halfway through the 4-year period, and which was a time when she was definitely feeling still pretty strong and good, and so it was a great thing to do. And okay, so just to start off, a little bit of information. I don't want to, bore you guys to tears with a lot of data, but just a little bit here. Matterhorn, of course, is the iconic peak that represents the Alps, Switzerland, and Disney, of course. The peak is actually on the border between Switzerland and Italy. Elevation, you can see there, 14,692. Most of the mountain itself is made up of a rock called gneiss, and it's been eroded down to this classic shape by 4 separate glaciers that surround the entire mountain. Other names for the Matterhorn in French, it's the Cervin and Cervino for Italian, and in the Walliser German, which is the area that we're going to be hiking through, is they refer to it as Haru, which I'm probably terribly mispronouncing, but that's how it's spelled anyhow. Mountain was first climbed in 1865 by this guy Edward Whymper and a bunch of his companions, but unfortunately 4 of those guys, well, 7 of them total for the team, but 4 of them died on the descent. And it turns out the Matterhorn is actually one of the deadliest peaks in the world. Like over 500 people over the years have died climbing this thing. So, it's obviously a safer to walk around the thing than to try and hike it. It's I started this trip and it's pretty much centered in, and most of the trip is actually in Switzerland. And Switzerland, just a brief history, it was first came together as a country when the cantons, which are their name for states, cantons of Schweiz, Unterwalden, and Uri, they got together and formed the Swiss Confederation. It was August 1st, 1291, a long time ago. Not long after the Austrian emperor at the time of the Habsburgs he had died. And it's referred to as the Rootly Oath when and that's what these guys in the background here are swearing allegiance, to the Confederation, etc. And there is a document basically that is the oath that they were all going to work together and form this Confederation. And you can actually on the Lake Lucerne go to the meadow where all of this supposedly originally happened. It's called the Rootly Meadow. And you can do tours from Lucerne across the lake and go to the area where this all happened. There is some myths surrounding all this, of course, one of which is, there's a doubtful association with William Tell, who supposedly killed some wicked bailiff named Gessler. And, having done that, subsequently, this Rootly Oath was given, and then it led to the eventual independence of Switzerland from the Austrian Habsburgs. August 1st is still their national holiday. It's the equivalent of our July 4th. And our trip, actually, the very first day of us actually walking occurred on August 1st on their, on their Independence Day. Switzerland declared itself a neutral state in 1515, and they've stayed neutral ever since. And it's that neutrality has played into their politics, ever since. Switzerland is a member of the United Nations, of course, since 2002, but it's not a member of the European Union. Okay, so just to give you some reference as to what we did here. Well, first of all, a little bit more about Switzerland. It's actually composed of more or less 4 separate regions, and there are 4 distinct languages within the country: German, French, Italian, and this thing called Romanish. The official language of the government is High German, but within Switzerland, all of those different languages, there are many dialects within each of those languages there. So the area where the walk was had occurred is where this green line is, and the orange line. Zermatt, which is where we started this, is where the orange lines and the green line intersect there. And this region down in here is referred to as the Walliser area of Switzerland. So it is a German type language. They call it Walliser Deutsch, which is German, but it's got enough words that are distinctly different that it's not the same as Swiss German. It's not the same as High German. And years back, before television became so prevalent, apparently over much of Switzerland, and I think this is true in Europe in general, if you didn't go, if you went more than just a few miles from your village, the Swiss German you were talking was different enough from the next village over that people had difficulties communicating with each other. It's kind of crazy, but that's the way it was. So yeah, this tour around the Matterhorn, as it's referred to, this is the area that we actually walked, with the exception of this part of the green line here, and I'll explain that in a minute. And the map on the right here is just a blown up version of where we are. So here's Zermatt. This is where we started, and Zermatt is at the top end of this valley, the Matterhorn Vispa, and this general area through here is referred to as the Vispertal, and the Vispertal or Vispitaler is another way it's referred to, is really these 2 valleys and all of the areas surrounding that. And these 2 valleys come together in this river that flows into the Rhone River that flows along this highway network here. And yep. All right, so why did we want to do such a trip? Well, our inspiration were these 2 people here. This was Sue's Uncle Rudy and Tante Bertie. It's Uncle, like Uncle Rudy and Aunt Bertie, basically. Yeah, as Cindy mentioned, most of Sue's family still lives in Switzerland. Her parents immigrated from Switzerland in the early 50s. And, after I'd been dating Sue for a while, we started going to Zermatt about every 2 years, really, to go hiking with Rudy and Bertie in the Zermatt area. This was their favorite place to go. They just loved going to Zermatt, and so they would drag us along, and we'd go hiking here with Uncle Rudy and tried to keep up with this guy. He was incredibly fit. I could never keep up, of course. Sue was most of the time was able to keep up with him, but I was always the guy way back, as everybody knows. And anyhow, these folks, we spent a lot of time with them, and they were a real inspiration for just falling in love with Switzerland, basically, and getting to know a lot about the country. And over here is Sue sitting with these two. This is actually near their hometown in Switzerland called Kulliken. So yeah, we spent a lot of time hiking with Rudy, and he always carried this book here, Zermatt and im Sommer und Winter, and he loved just wherever we got to hike, he'd open the book to that area and read about the area of where the trail was and so on. And at home, he actually brought the Zermatt often was this other book, which was a more general, it was a description of the larger area, the Vispitaler area that included Zermatt, the Matterhorn, and other areas to the north and northeast. But you can see him here in this picture. He's got that book right here with him, and yeah. And so the rough translation down here at the bottom of this book is a guide for walkers, hikers, mountaineers, and skiers. And yeah, I mean, they're basically just discussions of the various trails and so on. But in this book here, the Vispitaler was a couple pages describing a more general route or set of routes that goes around the area of the Matterhorn. And Rudy was always talking like someday he'd like to do that, or at least do parts of it. But he loved just going to Zermatt so much he never actually got around to it. So anyhow, when we decided to do this, we use this book here. Now, just to back up here and make sure I'm getting all this in here. Part of the, step back one quick. Yeah, so this is the book we used, but what had happened is when Rudy, Uncle Rudy, passed away in 2007, his daughter-in-law unfortunately found him in his favorite chair in his house, but he had been obviously reading this book when he passed away, and he had left it on the table next to his chair. And his daughter-in-law kind of realized what was going on. And so when Sue and I went over for the funeral a couple of weeks later, she told us, she says, you got to go over to the house. There's something that Rudy left behind for you guys. And it was this book here as well. Well, later on, we got this book too, but he had left this book, and we got thinking about it. We realized, he's kind of trying to tell us someday you guys got to do that walk, right? And so that was always kind of in our mind. And when I turned 60 eons ago, Sue wanted to give me a special present. She, was asking me what it was, and I said, what the heck? Let's we've been talking about this hike for a long time. Let's do the walk around the Matterhorn. And she was, of course, immediately enthused to do that. And she spent a lot of time putting a lot of it together. But really, it was a gift for both of us, right? I mean, for my 60th birthday, but for her to help fulfill Rudy's wish to do as much of that walk around the mountain as we could. So the book we actually work from is this one here by this gal, she's an English gal, actually, Hilary Sharp. And it describes in great detail all of the different sections of the route around the Matterhorn. And this map on the right here kind of shows you what the actual total route is. So here's Zermatt. This is where we started. And the book is set out so that you go counterclockwise in the book, but we have, of course, had to go clockwise. You know, we got to do everything different. And so yeah, so you cross into Italy for a little bit of this, and then back into Switzerland, into what's called the French part of Switzerland, and come around. It's approximately 30 miles from this northern end to the southern end. The total distance around there, I think, is it's probably on the next slide here, a set of notes, but yeah, it's about 80 miles maybe, and I think I'll have to see my notes on the next one here. But we took 17 days, yeah, to get around this thing, and a lot of that was, you know, we would do a couple of tough hikes and then do a rest day, maybe a couple of rest days, and then continue on. And yeah, and we weren't able to, you know, to walk every trail out there. It was just actually too much for the time we gave ourselves. But this is another map here from the book, and this is just showing all the plus 14,000 foot peaks that are in the general area. So it's actually somewhat of a misnomer saying, you know, we're walking around the Matterhorn. I mean, you know, you kind of got this concept that maybe all we doing is a little circle here, but it's a big route going, you know, fairly far north, and we actually go around several 14,000 foot peaks. And on the right here is an elevation profile, just kind of illustrating how much up and down you end up doing across this entire walk here. So another map, just a little more detail here. The green line that you see here is all the parts we actually did walk. I didn't take the time to cut out of the GPS data here. This section here, we actually took the train here from St. Nicholas down to Zermatt, and we didn't walk this part over between Praia and Arroyo, and I'll explain about that here in a minute. Basically, because we had misjudged just how difficult and long this stretch was going to be, so we hadn't made any arrangements to stay in that section, and we didn't really figure that out until we got going here. Yeah, and so then on this is just a topo map kind of showing the same thing here. So these are all the parts we walked and so on. So I think it's now I've lost my notes as to what the total distance is, but it's like 140 some kilometers, and we probably did at least 120 kilometers of that. Yeah, between 100 and 120 kilometers that we walked. And that, you know, you'd think over 17 days, well, yeah, that seems like plenty of time, but the parts you walk, there are some big ups and big downs that are part of this. So here we are taking off. This is the husband of one of Sue's cousin. This fellow's name is Hans Rudy, and this is not to be confused with Uncle Rudy. His name is Hans Rudy Luscher, to confuse things even more. Same last name as Sue, but not related in any ways. You know, Luscher's as common as Smith in Switzerland. But I've known this guy ever since my very first trip with Sue to Switzerland. He at the time when I first went with Sue to Switzerland in like 1986 or something like that. This was the only guy that could speak English, and he spoke really good English. In fact, I thought he was from Britain at first because he had learned all of his English in London, so he had a very strong British accent actually, until he spoke Swiss, of course. But anyhow, I've known this guy for a long time, and he wanted to go with us because part of this trail does go across a fairly major glacier, and Hans Rudy is a mountaineer, rock climber. He's done a lot of ice ice stuff and so on. And he was going to be our guide across the glacier part here. So that's why he was joining us on the trip. And yeah, so he's actually already hiked quite a few different sections of this trail around the Matterhorn. The only part he had never really done was the part across the ice. A very fit guy at this time, this is 2013, he was 70 or 71, and he was even harder to keep up with than Uncle Rudy. You know, he's just outrageously fit. And as far as I know, one of the things he's always been into is teaching people how to rock climb, and he's still doing that. He's got to be pushing 80, and he's still, you know, showing people how to go up rocks. So yeah, he visited us once in Anchorage, 2009. He's still doing a lot of traveling around Europe. And one of his distinguishing characteristics, among many, is this: mosquitoes do not sting this guy. When he came to Anchorage, it was at a time, you know, the mosquitoes are crazy. And you guys that have hiked with me, you know, I'm the mosquito magnet, right? Well, this guy would brag about it. He says, "My mosquitoes don't bite me." And he'd stand there out in our yard in Anchorage, and you'd see the darn things land on his arm, and they'd sit there for a minute and just fly away. And he never got a mosquito sting. And he said it's always been that way. Whenever he's up in the mountains in the Alps, all of his students are swatting mosquitoes like crazy. And yeah, he's never getting bit. So here we are anyhow on the train heading up to Zermatt. And this is kind of the country now that you get to see on the way to Zermatt. It's very beautiful stuff, very green. This is in August of 2013. This would have been, I guess, June or July 31st, actually, was when we were taking the train up. And yeah, this is just kind of the stuff you see on the way up. Very beautiful Swiss chalets, the train, of course. And as we get up there, you can catch a glimpse of the beautiful Matterhorn. And here's a shot of Zermatt. I'm not going to show a lot of pictures of Zermatt. It is a beautiful town, but it's also very touristy. This is one of the most popular areas in Switzerland that people go to both ski and hike and hang out in the restaurants and the bars and so on. And yeah, Sue caught us up on a balcony drinking beer before the day was out. Of course, you know, you got to have your Feldschlossi before you finish the day. Yeah, and of course, all over town, there's, you know, it's a tourist town, so there's always these different people doing musical type programs, and these guys are all blowing these things called Alp horns, and it's actually a very beautiful sound. And I've got, if we got time, there's some video at the end I've got that's demonstrates a couple of different people playing these Alp horns. One of Sue's uncles, Uncle Freddie, he was the youngest brother of Sue's mom, Margaret. That guy actually made these Alp horns, and he had several of them, and he knew how to play, and he was good at it. It was beautiful sound. All right, so we're about to do the hike, and one thing I have to bring up about hiking in the Alps, Switzerland especially, is none of the trail signs are in distance, you know, a kilometer or mile distances. It's always done in time. And right away, pretty fast, well, I mean, we'd always known this, but we'd kind of forgot, I guess. You can't actually believe these signs. As far as I'm concerned, these signs, those times are for Olympic runners that do nothing but run in the mountains, and they can actually make those times. But if you talk to any Swiss, if you tell them that you cannot make that time, they accuse you of being a very old person, right? You're a wimp. But anyhow, you don't trust the hour signs on these. Okay, so what I'm going to do then is describe each little segment of the hike we did, show a bunch of pictures, and just give you an idea of the some of the challenges and so on that we were faced with in doing this. So the first day was really tough. You know, we had been spending a lot of time in Haines at sea level, of course, and we'd been doing quite a bit of training, but it's just not the same unless you're at elevation. And Zermatt is just a little over 5,000 feet at the start, and we hiked up to 10 basically on the first day. You can see here it was over 6 miles, 4,700 foot climb. And Sue had just had finished her last chemo, maybe, I don't know, 5 days before this. So she was still kind of tired from that. And the elevation was a factor. And so we kind of went real slow that first day. You know, and for a lot of this trip now, what I have to explain too is most of the places we stayed were either well established and well set up hut systems where there's you know, places to sleep, people there cooking for you, you know, providing your meals. So you didn't have to carry a lot of gear. But because we were going to do this glacier section, which is from here up to Arola, we were carrying gear for, you know, crampons, ropes, you know, ice axes, all this stuff that we were going to need for that section. And so needless to say, we had more weight at the start than we had initially anticipated. So anyhow, off we go. And we were all excited. It was a beautiful morning, as you can see. I mean, it's just this place, when the weather's on, and August is always the best time of the year to be here. It is outrageously beautiful. And so here's Sue with Hans Rudy. And it's kind of a funny photo. Every time I look at it, it looks like she's got something sticking up on her head, but it's actually a sign way back there that just was in the wrong spot, really. And I've not done the photo magic to get rid of that thing. But so yeah, continuing on up. And what had happened, I think when we got to about this part, Sue was really slowing down. And I definitely was feeling the elevation. And Hans Rudy, to his credit, he realized what was going on. And so he grabbed Sue's pack and took out all of the light stuff she had and put into my pack. And he cobbled together all of the ice gear and took her pack all full of that stuff as well as his. And he went back down, and there's actually a train that goes all the way up to the hut that we were headed for this day, which is called the Gondeg Hut. So he did us the favor of getting all that stuff hauled up there, and he got to hang out up there for the rest of the day reading the book while we walked ourselves up this beautiful route. But it was definitely a big climb for the first day. And so yeah, this is us just continuing on up, and you know, really spectacular views of the Matterhorn as you're working your way up here. And of course, August is the high time, because again, we're at elevation. That's the high time for flowers. So, you know, Switzerland and this part of the Alps is famous for the Alpenrosen here, and I think these are the Enzian and so on. So as we get near the top, Hans Rudy's waiting for us, and he's brought down a couple bottles of fizzy and cold fizzy water for us. And we were starting to get pretty low on water, and it was a very welcome sight to have this guy waiting for us with the nice cold water. And as you'll notice, as we start getting to other sides of this mountain, it's going to look different from what the pictures that you've always seen of the Matterhorn. It has definitely different looks to it as you get in different positions on it. So this is the first hut we were headed for. This is called the Gondeg Hut. This big mountain in the background is called the Breithorn. And the accommodation here was that this upper story was 2 sections of bedding and these things, you know, it's a mattress, you know, and you get one body per very thin mattress there. And And luckily for us, we had gotten there early, and we got this half of the upper hut. I think it was this half here. And there's like on each side, I think there was 6 or 7 of these little beds. And on the other side, there was another half to this. It was so funny. We were all in there and we were kind of laughing about what this is going to be like. And we were kind of fretting. It was like, okay, how many other people are going to show up, and who the heck are we going to have to sleep with? Well, you start hearing all this tromping noise on the stairs. And it was this big group of like 15 or 20 Germans all clumping their way up the stairs, and they took the other half. And it's hard to believe, but they all went into that little room with all their gear and they slept in there side by side like that night. And we were left to just the 3 of us on that side. So we ate dinner there. Yeah, just a beautiful, nice view up one of these glaciers here. And as the sunset started to progress, you can see the shadow of the Matterhorn here in the back. This is the Breithorn off to the right side of this photo. Excellent meal. They had good wine, good beer. It was, it's a hostel, so to speak, but a hostel in Switzerland is better than probably Motel 6 here in the United States. So like I said earlier, this first day we took off was August 1st. So it's their Independence Day. And the Swiss love to shoot off fireworks on this day. And so we're up here, and the proprietors they did a whole show for like 3 hours shooting off fireworks. And I mean, it's crazy. When Sue and I, a few years back, had gone to Zermatt to hike with Bertie and Rudy, and it was on August 1st. And the celebration down in Zermatt continued hours into the evening. I mean, like till midnight, and the whole valley just filled up with smoke. I mean, it was like they had gone to war down there. You couldn't believe all the fireworks, just people shooting things off everywhere, off their balconies and in the streets. There was no control whatsoever. It was total chaos of fireworks, but fun nonetheless. It was really fun. Yeah. Okay, so next day, off we go again. And we had a good night's sleep. And so this is the next section here. So we're going from Gandeghuta down to this area called Bruels, Sardinia. And our goal actually was to overnight in this town here called Val Tornace. So we're going into the country of Italy. And so we had a little bit of up first part of the day, and then it was all downhill on the second day. But again, it's 7-mile day, and part of that was on ice and so on. And so what Hans Rudy wanted to do is take the opportunity in this section, because we did have a bit of snow to walk over, really low angled hills. It was nothing steep in this part. But he took this as an opportunity to train us about using ropes and our crampons and just some of the stuff you need to think about and know about doing in case on the glacier part, somebody falls into a crevice and you have to do some kind of rescue stuff. So anyhow, you can see, we're all loaded up we got our crampons on and the ropes on, and this is Sue falling off after Hans Rudy. And so we did a bit of that. Here's Sue, she's trying to do some art stuff, just showing what all stuff we got. And so yeah, the first part of the day was just doing some of that training with the ropes and all. And we actually continued on with this is actually part of a ski resort that's open all year round in the Zermatt area. This is starting to be on the Italian side. Part of this goes back down to Zermatt, and when we get over the hill, there's a part that would drop back down into Italy. But this section is basically flat, and we walked for like 2 miles long here, and there were skiers zooming by us, and we're walking along right with all our gear on, and they're just kind of doing double takes at us, like, who are these loonies, out on this flat ice. But anyhow, this is where we got our training. on this, and yeah, it was fun. So we finally hit the pass that would drop us down into Cervinia, and this is kind of where we started to realize maybe things are not going to work out as planned in terms of the ice work. You can see this is a fair distance. Yeah, we got to go, and you know, beautiful views, of course, and all, but yeah, we get up here, we get all our ice gear back into our packs and everything, and we just start heading on down, and here's, you know, another aspect of the Matterhorn. Now we're getting back onto the south side of it. Looks quite different. You know, big fields of flowers, of course, a lot of green grass, some old abandoned buildings that you're walking by. But for Sue and I, we're getting on to lunchtime, and for us, it's like, okay, where's the coffee? Where's the place we can go get a white wine, right? Because this is typical how you hike in Zermatt area. All the times we hiked with Uncle Rudy and Bertie. Well, Hans Rudy, he's just this total, you know, the Energizer Bunny guy. He's like, no, we're out here to hike. We got to keep hiking, right? He wouldn't let us stop. There was a beautiful, you can see this building right here. It was a beautiful place to go and get coffee and have some pastries and, you know, kind of relax. But yeah, he wasn't into that. So he just kept marching us along. He was way out ahead of us. And I was getting Sue kind of upset, and you know, made for another long, tiring day. But definitely a lot of beautiful country as we worked our way down here. And yeah, by the time we got to the bottom, that this is the bridge that was the final entry into Cervinia, Briones, Cervinia. We were pretty tired again, and of course we're carrying all this extra weight and so on, and just realizing, okay, like I think the hours from Gandehuta to Cervinia on the sign was supposed to be like 5 hours, and I think it took us over almost 7 to get down here, and that was going downhill, trying to keep up with this live wire here. So yeah, we started having second thoughts about that glacier part there, and so we got you know, we just started thinking, yeah, maybe this is not going to work. So this is a little bit of Cervinia here, and then we ended up overnighting for a couple nights in Val Tornecce, which is in Italy. But that night when we were in Val Tornecce, we talked to Hans Rudy, said, you know, hey, because the tour book we were using was saying that crossing from Praia to Arola was to be, I think, 10 hours. And I'm realizing, gosh, we got to add another, you know, almost 5 hours to that. And there's no way. And there is a hut partway through on that trip, but we had not ever made a reservation for that. So we realized, gosh, we really would have to be able to overnight on that section. And we hadn't set ourselves up, and Sue did try to call him, but there was nobody answering, and it honestly would have just messed up all of our other reservations we already had on the trip. So we had to tell Hans Rudy, I says, yeah, we're just going to have to cut that part out, and he got kind of mad at us because he really wanted to go on that, and you know, it's understandable. I mean, we were upset too. We really wanted to go on that, but it was just going to ruin kind of this whole section of the trip if we tried to bite that part off. So anyhow, he said, okay, if we're not going to do the ice, he just decided to go back home. So he gathered up all the ice gear and went back home to Switzerland, and we spent I think 2 nights here just resting up, thinking about it, and yeah, just a little bit more of Val Tornecce here. You know, again, the beautiful chalets, always with the geraniums. You know, it's got to have the highest number of geraniums per capita of any place in the world, in Switzerland and Italy, this northern part of Italy. And you know, good old Swiss ingenuity here, I guess. And even though this So again, now this is northern Italy, but it's not Italy. If anybody's ever been to Italy, it's not really Italian. This is still very German in this part of Italy. It's actually the Walliser section of Italy, as southern southwest Switzerland and in the Zermatt area is the Walliser area of Switzerland. So this is kind of an ethnic area that overlaps between the two countries. So yeah, so we got a little bit of rest and said, yeah, we're going to continue on. And so to do that, Valternecce is just right down in here. We had to get a very early bus from Valternecce back up here to Perez and to start the trailhead here. And, again, coffee, as you guys know, is a very important thing for me in the morning. And unfortunately, we had to catch like a 5:30 in the morning bus to get up there. And there was no coffee shops open yet in Valternecce. So yeah, we were a little grumpy on the bus, thinking, oh my God, we got a big day ahead of us, no coffee. And but we get there, get off the bus, and lo and behold, there is a bakery coffee shop right there across the road from the trailhead. And gosh, we were so happy to have that there. Well, I mean, we knew then it was just going to be a wonderful day, right? So anyhow, this was another big day, about 5 miles, 3,500 foot, 3,500 foot climb. You can see it took us nearly 8 hours to do that. And again, I think the trail sign said you should be able to get to the hut in 5 hours. So, we just had to do it in the way we could do it. So this is the start of this next section. And this picture on the left, this is what we saw as we were coming from Cervinia down to Valternecce on the bus. And we were both feeling really tired. And I was like, oh man, I don't know if we're going to be able to do any of the rest of this trip, because after just 2 hikes, I was feeling pretty tuckered. And I know Sue was, just because of her situation. But as we went by on the bus and looked up this section here and realized, oh, that's the next part. Wow, we got to go up there. Right. And by the time we got to Valternecce, we were looking at each other going, we're going to go no matter what, right? Because we just got to see this part right here. And so, yeah, this is what got us energized basically to continue on. And so, yeah, this was the start of that next section. Somebody's goats and so on here. And this was what it was looking like as we headed up. So here's Matterhorn way in the background. This area here is the Gandag Huta, sits right about in there. And we had spent that day coming down into the Cervinia, and then took the bus down this valley that you're seeing here to Valternecce, where we stayed. And yeah, so yeah, it was quite a spectacular day. And of course, smiles all around. Like we were realizing, okay, we're going to be able to do this. And a lot of us, because we got all that weight off our back, and we didn't have Hans Rudy kind of pushing us. It just became a more relaxed trip. So we were pretty happy. And this is just a picture of the way we're still got to go. And so yeah, we just kept on going. And this next day took the route comes down through this little valley here and back up over into these mountains here. And you can see now we're getting high enough, we're getting above tree lines. So it's definitely more harsh looking environment, still a lot of green, and of course flowers everywhere. Here's the famous Edelweiss Alpenrosen again. And there's some more Enzian. And yeah, just you can see the kind of terrain we're starting to have to walk through. The trails are not particularly marked that well. I mean, people do hike this fairly often, but sometimes you had to really kind of scratch around to see just where the trail was going. Nice patch of Alpenrosen there. yeah, so this is just us continuing on up. This is kind of looking back now from where we have come from. So we came up over this little ridge here and worked our way up through this. And just keep working our way up. And so the hut we're actually aiming for is this guy here. But as we're coming up the hill, what we were seeing most of the time is this little thing. And we're thinking, oh my God, that looks a little rusty. Is that actually where we're going to have to stay? And no, it was just a, I guess it was overflow, maybe, or just a much older hut system, is for true emergencies. This is what it looked like inside. I mean, you could still use this thing, but kind of threadbare mattresses and so on. We ran into quite a few of these guys. These are the Ibex. It's one of many different types of goats in the world, but this part of the Alps is famous for this particular type of goat. It's called an Ibex, and there used to be a clothing line that was famous for a while back called Ibex. They had this very same, male Ibex with the horns and all. They're beautiful animals. Because I know there's some geologists on the line here, I threw in some geology. There's this previous one, you can kind of see it from a ways away here. We got, I think possibly, without really having studied this, it could be like a thrust fault kind of thing that's pushing this brownish darker rock over this lighter material here. And when you get closer up views of it, it's kind of get a sense of this stuff having gotten pushed up and over, and the rocks are really deformed looking, as you can see here. They've been twisted around pretty good. And as the geologists on the call would know, that the Alps are a result of the African plate pushing into the European plate, and that action's been going on probably for 1 million or plus years, and so it's pushed these mountains up pretty high, and between that continuous plate action pushing the rocks up, and then the glaciation that's occurred over the last 25-30,000 years, it's really caused some deeply incised valleys throughout all of the Alps, and that's what makes them such dramatic mountains. But yeah, here's another shot just showing how everything's just gotten rolled around over the years. Another Ibex, they love to, this is a little dam here, and they love to lick on these rocks here. Probably salt evaporating out of the rock material, possibly. I never was really sure. All right, so we made it to Peruka, and we overnighted there. It was a nice little hostel. They fed us good, they made sandwiches for us for lunch the next day, had a breakfast, beautiful little spot. And the next day was mostly downhill, but we had a pretty sharp climb right in here that was our biggest climb and most dramatic of the whole trip, actually. Not as many miles this day, and a shorter day, and it was down to this next little town here called Armchair. And yeah, so that was the Peruka Hut. Beautiful little hut, actually. Had a great time there. So yeah, off we go the next day, and this first part is a pretty steep climb, and they've, over the years, people have put in these metal steps. I mean, they're just drilled holes and glued them right into the rock here. And the safest way up is on these steps and pulling yourself up on ropes. There's a little bridges here and there, and basically what it is, we're trying to get over this ridge line right here. And so yeah, took us probably hour and a half just to work our way through all this stuff, and a little bit of ice or snow yet here. This is August, but we had to walk over a bit of snow, but nothing to worry about. No crevices, or it wasn't really glacier, just snow left over from the previous winter. But yeah, you can see here these rocks are very steeply dipping and breaking off. So yeah, continue on up the ropes and steps. This yeah, it's quite a day getting through this. And finally getting onto some dirt again. And finally, this is the pass right here. Apropos, there's a cross right at the pass. Who knows what the symbolism of that? I guess maybe not everybody makes it, who knows? But there are flowers growing way up here, right out of the rock, you know, some kind of tulip looking flower in here. Yeah, just beautiful terrain, but very rocky. I mean, you can see now we're high enough now that, and this area gets hit with snow and harsh weather enough that there's very little vegetation in this part. So this now we've gone over the pass, we're coming back down through all this. And on the other side, yeah, we had more of this crazy step stuff. You had to work down through these narrow cracks, snow on to get ourselves on the trail down in here. But yep, finally got through that. And we're looking down on the valley into Prior. Beautiful terrain ahead of us, and time for a cool off. We were pretty sweaty by the time we got down here, and so took a bit of quick dip. This is very, very chilly water, and off we go, continuing on. And so yeah, just working our way onto. That's a little village actually, Prior, and this is we had reserved a room in this little hotel here, and this was with a view out the window, of course, with the geraniums. And this is a reservoir here. This is looking almost directly south, and yeah, just a lot of old stone buildings here. What is interesting in a lot of Zermatt and a lot of these high alpine towns is these slate roofs here, and I'll have a couple pictures that are kind of close-ups to that, but yeah, just beautiful flowers, again, geraniums everywhere. This area was, you know, these guys got very, you know, innovative with their chimney designs here. This is all made of rock, of course, and they're in use. You know, there's a stove down in there feeding smoke out of these things when they're in use, but. Yeah, so here's a couple of shots just showing these slate roofs, and these things have been on these buildings probably for a couple hundred years, and I suppose occasionally they got to get some repair, but whoever, you know, there's obviously craftsmen that know how to chip this slate off into just precise sized and shaped pieces so they can build it up as like a tiled roof basically. But this is all just rock, actually. It's not a manufactured product. They took and pounded out rock from the mountain and shaped all these things and put them on the roofs, and you see these all over the Alps. Yeah, these kind of roofs, and they, you know, here they've done it on their chimney top and so on. Okay, so because we weren't going to do the glacier now, we had to do a bit of a detour. So what we had decided is we would catch a bus in this town here called Baianaz. This is in Italy now, and bus down to this town here called Aosta, and then bus from there all the way around to Arola. And so we did a very long day actually to get over there, and the first part, there was no bus service up at Prior. We had to walk down to Baianaz to catch the early morning bus, which is like at 8, I think it was 8 in the morning, yeah. And so we had a little bit of an up right at the start, and then it was all pretty much downhill, but almost 8 miles just to get down to that town. So we left at like 4:30 or 5 in the morning just to, and we barely got there to catch that bus. But yeah, we walked the entire length of this reservoir and so on. And so this, when it finally got light, because we left in the dark, and when it finally got light, we started seeing some of the terrain. So yeah, they got fireweed there in the Alps, also just like Alaska. And here was the dam that was holding that reservoir, and just the continuous route down. So this, I think that is the town, yeah, Baianaz there. And this valley here is where Arola, or not Arola, but Aosta sits. And just kept working our way down. beautiful old buildings again. You can see the stone tile roofs and so on. And finally made it to the bus station. And yeah, the bus, big standard, big giant bus really. And but we're in Italy and the bus driver is Italian. And the ride down was an outrageously zigzag road, very, a lot of hairpin turns. And this is a full-size bus. And this guy, the bus driver, was driving as fast as he possibly could drive. And he had his head out the window the entire time, yelling at all of the oncoming traffic to get out of the way because I guess he was behind schedule. I don't know. But we were sitting right in the front of the bus, it's got the giant windows, how these tour buses are. And it was better than any Disney or amusement park ride you ever go on. You got this screaming Italian, who knows what all he was saying, but he yelled at cars almost the entire route down. But we finally made it into Aosta. And Aosta is an old Roman town. Basically, it's a lot of old Roman walls that are still being used. They'll build a building around some of these old walls and make use of them. And it's a beautiful little town. This was an old Roman theater that they actually did, I guess, music and actual dramatic plays in and so on. And of course, it's mostly fallen down, but yeah, just beautiful things. And it was fun to just hang out here a little bit and look at the mountains in the background and just think, gosh, a couple thousand years ago, people were going to see theater and having this beautiful surrounding all around them. So so we bussed out on the same day. Later in that afternoon, we caught the bus to Arola, and on the way up to Arola was this curious conglomerate formation here that had some really bizarre differential erosion, as it's referred to. These bigger chunks of rock were still in place, and everything around it had been eroded down, and it's pretty well consolidated, actually. I mean, they built a tunnel through it here. You can see the road comes right through this thing, but and it goes for quite a ways. You can see it. It's just one unit like that. It's interesting. Okay, so then we got to Arola, and again, that we skipped this whole part. And on this map here, this topo map, this shows where is it? Oh yeah, this is the Refugio Nakamuli. So that would have been the hut if we had understood just what kind of challenge we really had there and had set up a reservation there. That would have been the hut we would have stayed in on the first night, climbing, and then do the glacier bit the next day. But yeah, it was definitely a 2-day section in there, and we had to skip. So so we spent a couple days here at Arola. It was very, very beautiful spot also. And we kind of worked, we did some touring around here. We took a bus down to Evelina here, or Eveline, sorry. And now we're in what's called the French part of Switzerland. So yeah, a lot of beautiful country again, and French food, of course. And yeah, so this is the hotel we stayed at there. We weren't suffering. Okay, I mean, we had long walks often done on our trip here, but there were days of luxury too. And I mean, yeah, just beautiful flowers on this place. Again, now the style you'll notice has changed a little bit because we are in the French part of Switzerland. So you see more of it's like a stucco siding basically on this, as opposed to more a lot more wood and so on that you might see in the German part, but still with the geraniums, of course. And yeah, just a lot of interesting buildings. I mean, it's still a fair amount of use of wood, so on. This is their way of doing rodent control. Actually, they would put these buildings up on these pillars, the big flat rock like that, so that the rats and the mice and so on could not get up into the buildings. These type of buildings actually is what they tended to store their grains and so on. And it's not so much for living. Some houses that people were living in had this kind of thing, but this was mainly to keep the rodents out of their the places they stored grain. And yeah, this is now in Eveline, another beautiful little town. These guys are sitting around having a jaw, and this young boy was playing an accordion, and he started serenading Sue, of course. And so she got a couple pictures of that. Gardens are a big thing in the Alps, of course. And, beautiful garden there, and they do this kind of terracing out in here. That was never quite clear what they were. This is just another little town. There's a lot of little villages like this up in the mountains, you know, where people are living and doing farming, and not sure what they were growing on these terraces, but I'd see quite a bit of that. Art in woodwork, you know, or firewood, you know, they're very, some places, I didn't find any pictures, but some of the art, I mean, they would put in faces and different things with flowers sticking in these wood piles here. And this was a restaurant in Eveline, and I just had to throw this in. This is a sundial on the side of one of the buildings there. And so I thought it was just a great contrast, you know, Alpine time versus Swiss time on my Swiss watch, and then the Apple time, you know, all just changing of the generations, I guess. So we finally had our couple days of break, and we started the next part of the journey. So here you can see now we've, you know, this is Zermatt. We've already covered through this area, and we've actually now at this part we broke away a little bit from the trail that was in the Tour of the Matterhorn book. The trail is supposed to come over here to Zinal, and then work its way up into here, and then down. But all the accommodation was already taken when Sue was trying to put the trip together. So we were going to have to do a diversion in here anyhow. So we hiked this whole part, and then caught a bus that was like a tour bus. It took us up this far and then back down to a little town here called Gruben. And so the part we actually walked was, you know, all the way up over this col, and so we're in the French part, and the French word for you know, a pass, a mountain pass, is a col, C-O-L. So every day the col was the goal, right? And this was a good steep climb, you know. That's about 57 up to over 9,000 some, and then it was all downhill. And it's probably right in here is where we caught the bus, and then the bus is all this part here. So total day 18 miles, but we did close to 10 walking this whole stretch all through in here, and right in there is where we caught the bus, and then bus did a tour. It was coming up this way anyhow, so we just sat and stayed on it until they got us back down here to Gruben. And that part of the walk was a very wet day. It rained most of the day. This was the start was actually still dry, but it got foggy and wet fairly quick. This photo on the right is one of Sue's favorite photos. I don't know how well this comes through on the zoom here, but it's all real foggy. You could just barely see some cows, and there's just this one little tiny patch of color out here. And what it was is the guy managing the cows, and he had this very brightly colored umbrella that he was using, just walking around managing the thing. But Sue was always so proud of this photo, because it's basically, for all intents and purposes, it's almost a black and white photo with just a smudge of color in there. She loved that thing. But you know, even though it rained most of the day, we just had beautiful displays of flowers. Here's a bunch more edelweiss, a lot of other flowers, paintbrush, and gosh, a bunch of stuff I don't remember the name of anymore, but just huge fields of this stuff. But you can see we were getting pretty wet. It was a wet day, but it was warm. So, and we were just having a good old time. And when we got down near the area that we were going to catch the bus, it was a big reservoir here. Switzerland runs on a lot of hydro. They've got just dozens and dozens of these little reservoirs up in the Alps and driving generators at the bottom of these dams. And yeah, a lot of hydro in there. Just walking across the dam and looking back up the reservoir there. And this is Gruben, and this is the little hotel we stayed there, the De Mori. Beautiful place. This town was really unique. It's near, there is a little ski resort near here, which we never actually paid any attention to. But the other thing this town is famous for is the wood carvings. A lot of wood carving artists live in this town and just do this beautiful kind of stuff right here. And this hotel had a lot of these kind of things. So that was like a cutout with some kind of I don't know if that was I think it was a different kind of wood they had put in the door here, but that's an Ibex, of course. And yeah, just beautiful woodwork. More of this stuff with the rodent control, you know, brick lined streets. Here's some of the wood carving stuff on the sides of houses just everywhere. There was these wood carvings, and this is just a little water feature, but yeah, beautiful with all the geraniums. Even the fire hydrants they had painted up. So geraniums and beautiful buildings everywhere. You know, nice little curved banister here on this place. Big mountains in the background, of course. More good stuff. Let's see, I'm getting over time here a little bit. But yeah, beautiful stuff. And wood carvings, like I said, everywhere. Some more detail on the wood here. And of course, got to end the trip with a beautiful meal. You know, this was quail and red wine and bread. Yeah, lovely place, lovely place. So the next bit was from Gruben up to an area called there's an old hotel called the Weisshorn. It looks like I captured my cursor in that one. We actually had to drop down into this valley here, and then had a pretty tough climb all the way up to the Weisshorn here again. So big day, but lots of beautiful country again. You know, we had pretty much every day was excellent weather and beautiful terrain, of course, to travel through. This is this little town. I neglected to look up the name of this town again. I've forgotten, but this is right in the bottom of the valley, and this is kind of looking south into the mountains there. More carving type work here. And here's a shot of another big mountain. It was way to the north in the map I showed you. This is the Weisshorn here. Has kind of a Matterhorn look, but this obviously is a much tougher looking mountain to climb. There are people who climb it, of course, but we didn't go near that thing. So yeah, there's Gruben way down in there, and we're working our way up to the Weisshorn, and we overnighted here. This was a building on its way out, really. I mean, to walk these floors was, well, they tilted every different direction. Like every step you took, you're kind of banging into the wall on the right, and then onto the left, and then it would go up and then down. And yeah, it was, it had seen some structural damage over the years, but good place to stay. I mean, had a really nice room. They fed us excellent food again, and yeah, had a good old time there. So then now we continue on from the Weisshorn over to another little town called Gruben, 6.5 miles, kind of an up and down day. Again, through just more beautiful stuff, still above the tree line. And yeah, of course, Switzerland's famous for its cows and cowbells, and yeah, that's an actual cowbell. And so there probably was 30 of these guys out in this one field, and they all had these giant bells on them, and they're all ringing away, and it's beautiful sound, actually. It's definitely the sound of Switzerland, the cowbells. But yeah, here we're coming over the pass, working our way down into Gruben. Just some of the little cabins and stuff along the way. Fireweed in bloom. And this is the Gruben Valley, looking up towards a glacier that's coming down in the valley. But yeah, I'm starting to get pretty tired. You can probably tell there. It's starting to wear on us. Tiny little town. Beautiful spot again, though. And yeah, this was the Hotel Schwarzhorn. So it was after another 14,000 peak back in there somewhere called the Schwarzhorn. And this is the view out our room from this hotel here. And again, yeah, just great food, great wine, beautiful view. Had a really nice night there. But yeah, so each of these places we're just overnight and then continuing on. And so here's then this last stretch, Gruben all the way on back to Zermatt. So what we did here is another pretty steep climb, the first part, and we walked down to here. And this real sharp drop here was actually like a cable car thing that dropped down to St. Nicholas. So we walked to there, caught that cable car, and then picked up a train back to Zermatt. By the time, time here, you can see here, this is August 12th. So we're already, we've already done 12 days with breaks along the way, but Sue was starting to, get more tired, and I definitely was too. And so, yeah, we did that, and here's some of the scenery along the way. So this is taken off from Gruben and working our way up. Still quite happy. Just kind of looking off to the northeast as we're coming over the Col, because the Col is the goal, and just continuing on around. And this is now looking up the valley towards Zermatt. And yeah, just another little village. And it was just below this village is where the gondola was. It took us down to the train station. And yeah, just more beautiful stuff. Little restaurant there. We stopped and had just a light lunch, and because we'd already gotten the schedule for the tram, so we knew when we had to lickety split down this bit and catch the tram. So this is our last bit of the actual around the Matterhorn bit. And so we're back in Zermatt, celebratory wine with our view of the mountain, and got to do another cleanup. And so we spent another 3 days in Zermatt, and we did a couple more big hikes there to make up for the parts we had not been able to do on around the Matterhorn trip. And these gals were playing the Alp horn and accordion, big cello, clarinets. Yeah, they were fun. So just to highlight the two big hikes we did out of Zermatt, then this is the Holbalmen, and the other is the Gornagrat Finland hike. These are both favorites of Uncle Rudy, and so we had to do those as in his memory. But yeah, big day there, 10 miles, a lot of elevation up and down. And this second one, we well, I'll talk about that when I get to it. But one thing I want to point out is through the Gaia map application I use, I was able to access the topo maps that Switzerland provides, and they're just beautiful cartography. I mean, look at this stuff. This next map here, or next shots here, are just showing close up of the cartography that these guys put into their maps for the Alps. I mean, these are actual cliffs and rocky areas that currently exist, and it'd be hard to get lost if you had these maps out in this country, because it's very well detailed. And this line is actually it's a train that runs up here to what's called Gornagrat. Okay, so this is the Holbalm trip we did, and this is on our way up to do that hike. There was a lot of Edelweiss along the way. Stopped at the Hotel du Trift, have some refreshment and listen to some more Alphorn music. And these are kind of things we got to see of the Alpahorn, so, or the Matterhorn. This is the more traditional view of Matterhorn, of course, but this trail works its way down around this way. We kind of come back on the other side of the valley on that part of the trail. So it was good day. Just beautiful stuff, of course. And this is working our way down. This is another little geology shot here. Nice polishing of the rock from the glaciers when they were down in here. And little villages scattered about the hills. That's just part of the scene. On the second day, we cheated. We took this train up to this area called Gornegrot. And Uncle Rudy I'm sure turned over in his grave, because all the years we went and hiked with him, he would not allow us to get on any of these trains. We had to hike every trail. We had to walk everything. Tante Birdie would take this thing up and meet us up here, and then we'd all walk down together. But this is the reason everybody comes up to the Gornegrot, this beautiful view of all these glaciers. I think this is called this is the Monte Rosa here, and I think that's the that's the Gornegrot Glacier. Sorry, yeah, and and then a bunch of feeder glaciers coming into this thing. So on the way down from Gornegrot, this is a favorite spot that we always stopped on with Verity and Rudy. It's called Finland Area, and we'd go to this Ension restaurant, little church here. You'd hike by. And again, the stone on the roofs, the slate roofs and everything. But just a beautiful little village here. Sue doing some artwork. And we'd always end up at this Ension restaurant and either sit on this table right in the corner or right here where Sue is sitting, and just this beautiful view of the mountains. And yeah, we'd hang out, have some cold white wine, some cheese, and, this really thinly sliced dried beef they called Butnerfleisch. Just beautiful stuff. So, after it was all done, the whole family put together a celebratory party for us. And this is just the end here. This is Sue kind of teasing her. This is one of her cousins, Peter, who lives in Zurich. And here's Hans Rudy again. And here, this is him telling us that he was very proud of us actually making it around. He did not believe we could actually make it after having seen us those first 2 days, but he was very happy and just went to everybody in this whole party bragging about the fact that he had got us started on this, of course, and was very proud of us having made it, having done all of it. And yeah, this is all some of the relations here. And wanted to point out this is Marianne. This is Sue's cousin Marianne, who's the wife of Hans Rudy here. And so yeah, get some wine in me, and I'm telling everybody here at the table that those signs, with their hours and everything, we beat those times by at least 2 hours every trip. This was the reaction, of course. Yeah, nobody believed that. But you got to tell a story, right? And so these guys were yucking it up over all that. Anyhow, thank you. That is the end. Prost and Danke, and Sue giving you a toast. If we've got any time left, I got a couple of videos that show these gals playing their music. You can hear the music and so on. So gosh, it's run a lot later than I thought it would. So we can either take questions or call it quits, whatever you guys want to do. Hope you're all still there.
Hi, Dennis. That was great. This is Cindy. I have a couple questions. One is, it doesn't look like anybody was hiking the trail other than you. I never saw pictures of other people. So I'm wondering, how many people did you see in a day? And I also wonder, do some of those villages, do they all have car access, or are some of them ones that the villagers have to walk up from the road somewhere?
You know what? I'm going to unplug this headphone, and hopefully it's going to come out on the speakers. So, because I got Deborah in the room, Deborah Marshall, and she wants to hear
Probably got to change my audio. don't
I can hear you.
There we go.
Can you hear?
Yep.
Cool.
Okay,
Good.
good. So what Cindy was asking is about roads to the villages and was there anybody else on the trail? Actually, there were very few people on this whole trail. We would run into a few hikers here and there, but a lot of the time, most of the day, we were by ourselves. Yeah, it was. We were really surprised because we thought, gosh, it'd be overflowing with people. But there's a couple other more famous routes that cross this route. We did what's it called? I'm spacing the names, but there's one out of France that everybody does, and in that section we did cross. We did meet up with some people. Yeah, a lot of the villages. Yeah, a lot of those places we stayed. Now, where the huts were, the only way you could get there was through the trails. Yeah, but those other villages, they all had auto,
Okay.
car access. Yeah.
Okay.
There's
Thanks.
Deborah.
I'm reading the notes.
Oh, we got things coming up.
Awesome. Yeah.
Oh, you want to hear the music?
Yeah, I would like to hear a bit of music.
This is great. When I start this, you see this guy with the sunglasses and watch, white hat. Keep an eye on him. So just gonna start. Can you hear that?
Yeah.
Is the audio coming through? No audio? How do I get the audio to go?
Don't play yet.
I don't know. Yeah, it takes a minute to warm up here. But so are we hearing that or not?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. So yeah, watch this dude. Poor guy.
Here's a question.
You got a question? So while that's going on, Deborah Schnall was asking if there's was any mineral values up in those mountains. On the section that I walked, there was no evidence of any mineral activity up there. It's mostly metamorphic rock, which is not always a good terrain for finding anything economic. So yeah. Yes, but it is very Swiss, isn't it? Yes, that's one of the comments. Yeah. Yeah, I'll stop this one. And this one, you got to hear this gal with the oh, sorry, this gal with the Alp horn it's actually beautiful stuff. And the guy with the white hat will show up again. You can hear the sleigh bells in the background. There's our guy. So yeah, another question was the weather always so nice, and Yeah, I have to say in August is the best time to be in the Alps. It's the dry time of the year, flowers are out. And yeah, we had one full day of rain and another day of just, some sprinkles, but the rest were clear and sunny, little puffy clouds now and then, and relatively warm. Warm in the sense of, highs of probably like 75 degrees or so. So perfect for hiking and stuff, right? Yeah. Got one more of these if you guys can stand it, but is there any other questions? I hope you like that. I didn't think it was going to take that long, of course, but yeah. Well, if nobody, I'm going to play this thing because it's, he has a different sound. In Switzerland, that's where I bought the Edelweiss suspenders. A lot of the hiking group knows that because Lou and I used to compete on suspenders, so on our hikes in years past.
An interesting instrument, like you have to be so far away from it. So what do you hear?
Yeah. Anyhow, it's kind of funky, but yeah, it's good fun.
Do they make special racks for those to be carried on top of your Subaru?
Yeah, of course, and they don't collapse. But I think now the ones that Uncle Freddie made, they did come apart. So I think it broke apart in like 3 different pieces. Yeah, but it's beautiful wood. It's some special wood of the Alps. I think it's larch. Yeah, larch. It's a type of pine actually that loses the needles in the wintertime. And real light wood though, so it's somewhat similar to our spruce, I guess. But okay, you can stop now. Anyhow, I'm glad you guys hung in there. Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. That was really cool. I know I'd never be able to do those hikes, so now I got to see what it was like without having to do those 5,000-foot vertical days.
Oh, yeah.
There's one other question about the economy and those small, if it was dependent on the truckers. Not at all, because like I said, there were roads, all those places that had the nice hotels that we stayed at. There were roads there and they had year-round activities, was it Gruben's had a ski resort nearby. A couple of the others, yeah, they had either skiing or other winter type activities. A lot of people in Switzerland, they are very active people. So they do get out and hike, but they don't, it's kind of in the States. I guess they don't go more than a mile or two from the hotel or wherever. It was in Zermatt area, there's definitely a lot more people on the trails. So yeah, it is dependent on people coming to the towns and doing the recreational stuff year round, for sure. And like Gruben's, I think they made some of their money by selling those wood carvings. There's beautiful stuff there. Yeah.
My mom is still on.
Yeah. Anyhow, I was glad to share this with you guys. It's brought back a lot of good memories. I have to say this, there's a lot of us online here that knew Sue, and she's been gone 7 years, and there was actually not really any grief with this at all. It was just good memories, and that's what brings, that's what keeps these people alive in our lives, right? It's the good times. So I'm glad I was able to share it with you folks, and hope you enjoyed it.
We sure did, Dennis. It was great.
Yep.
Thanks, Dennis.
Thanks, Dennis. Thank you. It was awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All righty.
Thank you, Dennis.
It was fun to see Sue again and get to see the trip. So thank you, Dennis, for sharing.
Yep. All right, somebody,
All right. Thank you everyone for coming. Thank you, Dennis, for putting that on. That was fantastic. I saw a piece of the world I have definitely haven't seen before. Thank you again, Russ and Cindy, for organizing everything. If anyone is interested in seeing this program again, it will be up hopefully by tomorrow on the library website, along with all our other programs. And again, I believe Cindy said April 7th is our next program. So please keep an eye out for that. And we hope to see you again next time. Thanks again, everybody. It was really gratifying to see such great turnout. And I hope everybody has a great night and a great weekend.
all right,
Bye.
see you all. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Okay.
Hey, thanks.